For men to feel less stressed, they need to up their testosterone. And in order to up their testosterone, men need to do things that release dopamine. Dopamine is the reward chemical or hormone we produce when we solve problems, right? So this is why you find like men are stressed, they need to go solve a problem. They need to go to the garage and fix a car. They need to go.
Oh.
It's because that is producing dopamine, which is upping their testosterone, which is lowering their stress levels. Scientific fact.
Yeah. This is a new meeting point for people all over the world to gather for healing and ultimate wellness through the solutions provided in our conversations. Welcome to Wellness with Lilly. The first time I saw this clip, I thought, stop! SOS! Someone get her out of there! I was so intrigued by the world of meditation, metaphysics, energetics, trauma release, and everything that this clip is showcasing. Our wellness expert today is Nyamwathi Gichau, a true luminary in the realm of holistic wellness. With her extensive expertise as a wellness consultant, trauma-responsive yoga professional, psychologist, certified therapist, metaphysics teacher, and energy healer, Nyamwathi shares insight towards profound self-discovery and healing. Welcome, Nyamwathi. Thank you for making time.
Thank you. Wow, I'm humbled by that introduction. That's amazing. Thank you for having me here on your show.
Yeah. So let me just hit the nail on the head. So let me ask it how I heard it when I saw it first. What is going on?
I know, it looked pretty out of this world, huh?
Yeah.
So the clip in question was me receiving a type of energy healing called spinal energetics. And I'm actually currently in training to be able to be a spinal energetics practitioner or therapist to offer this to others. So depending on when this is aired, maybe if it's aired after June, I'll be able to actually do this for people.
Okay.
And it was important for me to be able to physically go through that process, because I cannot offer to others what I haven't done experientially to myself in order for me to see the changes, right? Otherwise it would just be textbook. And so any healing modality that I offer and that I use and that I hold space for people in their healing has been things that have changed my life, that have helped me heal from various incidences and traumatic events in my life. So that particular one with spinal energetics, for me, it was the missing piece. As you covered, that I'm a psychologist, certified and licensed therapist. And so, within that space, I know how working on a mental or psychological level can address some things, but it's not the end all be all. There's limitations with only working with the mind. And this is simply because we as a human being, we are multifaceted and multi-layered. And if there's an issue somewhere within you, it's gonna appear not just on the mental level, it's gonna appear physically, it's gonna appear energetically, it's gonna appear spiritually. And so working with the problem only on one aspect might be, sometimes it can work, but other times you can hit a glass ceiling where you've done enough, you've done as much as you can with the healing with that, but then you need to go deeper or you need to access it on a different plane.
That's very insightful to me, because I remember going through therapy and there's a particular thing that I wanted to resolve in my life. When I felt I'm completely healed, I still had not resolved that thing. Then it appears that
came back, right?
No, actually, it never left. Some other things changed in my life, but I wasn't able to resolve that particular thing. And now that you say that you must explore different modalities, that's very interesting. I find that, and we're going to talk about that later. I wanted to know because in the clip, it looks like Shalini is pulling something out. Do you feel it like that? Is it how it looks like something is being removed?
Yeah, so it looks really intense, but it actually, so me on the table, it actually feels like there was one point when I'm on the table with her where my body just felt like levitating, and it was such a profound experience for me. So as much as it looks intense, as you're receiving this this treatment, it doesn't feel as intense. And you know, you would think, because we're very much in our heads about a lot of these things, you would think, oh, my brain is saying my hand needs to move this way. It's not a choreography, it's not a dance. Literally, if you're open enough and trusting enough, what happens is your body starts moving on its own. So let me explain something. So this is now where we get into trauma. The reason that I wanted to even be a spinal energetics practitioner, and then now was looking for somebody in Kenya who could actually give me that service, so that I could then experience it and then solidify my resolve to actually train to be it, is because whether it was through the psychology or through the energy work or through working with somatics, like using yoga postures to work on releasing and healing trauma, nothing ever really released deep-seated trauma from the root in its authentic nature. So what I mean by that is, if you watch documentaries about animals in the wild, right? Think about the gazelle or the antelope living just here in the national park. It's living next door to its biggest enemy, the lion, who can kill it and eat it in a matter of seconds, right? And this is a real-time threat that's happening all the time for the antelope, right? But you don't hear antelopes having anxiety disorders or depression or, you know, and they don't have houses where they can lock themselves up and the lion won't come in. They're literally living in the open. And so what is the infinite intelligence that allows these mammals, because we're mammals, right? That allows our mammal cousins to be able to release trauma after a traumatic experience. So a lot of scientists started to record what was happening, and what you see is the lion starts to chase the gazelle. If the gazelle doesn't get eaten by the lion and manages to escape, what happens is the gazelle at some point, now when the danger is over, will start having these incredible tremors, these shakes and hyperventilation. And when they started to do more research and study deeper, they found that what's happening when that's happening is the body is burning the hormones that have been secreted by the adrenaline glands to produce that sympathetic response or fight or flight, right? Because you're running for your life, right? So mentally, you know that, I'm in danger, right? And remember I said, things don't just happen on one field. So what happens when your brain picks up I'm in danger, it's going to tell your adrenaline glands, yo, we need to go, we need to survive. Adrenaline glands, they're going to secrete norepinephrine, it's going to secrete adrenaline and cortisol. So those three hormones, they go around your body and your bloodstream doing different things. And all of those things are to prepare you to either run away from the predator or to fight and defend yourself. You know, so over if we have these hormones pumping into our system for extended periods of time, we're going to start getting imbalances, because imbalances that lead to, say, high blood pressure or type 2 diabetes. Because, see, those hormones being produced in the body will tell your heart to beat faster, which increases the amount of blood that's flowing, and that increases what? Your blood pressure, right? It'll tell the glucose that was supposed to now go into the organs and feed them to stay in your bloodstream. So that's elevated what? Blood sugar, right? Over a long period of time, when you have elevated blood sugar, you have diabetes. So this is why they also call these things lifestyle diseases. So now what happens is nature is very intelligent, and nature has designed the body to be able to deal with having influxes of that by burning it off. So these tremors, these shakes, the hyperventilation allows these hormones that are toxic to the body if they're produced, in high amounts for a long period of time, to get released, so that they're not stuck in the body. Okay, so that's how trauma authentically looks like when it's leaving the body.
Okay.
Now, the only species that do not have this response with the trauma, the only species that do not have this response with the trauma is animals in captivity, right? So animals in zoos and the human, because we are also living in captivity.
Yeah.
Right?
That's so profound.
Yes, we have to start to look at, okay, so what makes this different? It's because we have removed ourselves from the natural way of things.
Yeah.
Right? And so in doing that, we've kind of short-circuited the body's infinite intelligence in being able to release trauma. So what's happening is you have a traumatic situation, it stays in the body, you go to a therapist, you come to me, we sit down. A lot of times we will prompt you to revisit that. So if that doesn't get resolved, then what's happening is actually you're getting re-traumatized.
Oh.
If you don't have,
yeah.
right? If the therapy sessions are not helping you actually process and resolve, and then you're supposed to have a support system after this, right? If you don't, you're actually getting re-traumatized. So a lot of times people end up dropping out of therapy because it's not working as it should be. And so, and now, remember, we have a physical response to this. So now your adrenaline glands, they're just overacting, you know, they're producing all of these stress hormones, they're wreaking havoc. When you're producing these stress hormones, guess what's not being produced? The hormones that make you feel happy. This is why as a human being, as a human species, we are constantly chasing happiness. We're chasing the dopamine that makes us feel like success, rewards. We're chasing the oxytocin, the bonding hormone. We're chasing the serotonin, the mood stabilizer and the mood lifter. And these hormones cannot be produced if you're running on your sympathetic nervous system, which is the stress, the stressed space. So, so I found no matter what healing modality I have gone through, nothing has been able to really release from the root in its authentic self, the backlog of trauma that was in my system until spinal energetics.
So you went through therapy and you had done all that support system, everything.
And just as you were saying, you know, it helped to some degree, but there was still a root that was rooted. Right? And it would come out with something that happens to me that triggers an anxious and overthinking response. And I'm like, that's interesting. Why is that still there? I thought I had fixed that. Right? And so, and so I at some point I'm like, no, I need something deeper. I need something that's more, that's just going to get the trauma out. And so, you know, Spirit led me to Spinal Energetics. It just started showing up on my Instagram feed. I'm like, that's it. That's exactly what it is. Now, when I discovered there was no practitioners here, and I wanted to be one of the practitioners here, but I promised myself that, you know, just do my due diligence, move slowly, and just wait until there's practitioners here. And then there was one, and that was the first practitioner actually, not just in the country, but on the continent. Her name is Shalini. And so I managed to get her contact and immediately booked for quite a few sessions. And it's been phenomenal. People who know me and know what I've been through, especially in the last year, they're like, yo, you're lighter. Like, we can see it. You're radiating. You're no longer having this heaviness that came from all of the grief of what you were going through. Are you able to share a little bit? Yeah, sure. So, I mean, so the fact that I'm such a multifaceted individual is because I have gone through so much, so much. In the last year alone, I went through ultimate betrayal by my partner at the time. And this was, just really deep betrayal. I was broken into many little pieces. And what ended up was me facing my worst nightmare, which was me becoming a single mom. Oh, sorry. And so, you know, picking up the pieces of that was quite difficult when my baby was just, 3 months old. Ooh. Right? And I didn't have a support system. And then 3 months later, my mother passes away. So I've lost both my parents. However, my mom passing away was more traumatic than my father because we had to go through the experience of sudden death. However, it wasn't sudden death. She had breast cancer and she did not tell us. And we were hanging out with her. We would spend time with her. I saw her literally a month before she passed. My sister saw her 2 days before she passed. And she was hiding it from all of us, right? And so how we knew was, you know, she was not now responsive, and we had to, responsive to her phone, we had to break into her house, and we had to find her dead, and I had to clothe her body, her dead body. You can imagine how,
That's
you know,
a lot.
there's all kinds of PTSD, right? And now having to go through the postmortem and try to figure out, why is she dead? What's this? What's this wound that we're seeing? And then be told actually she had stage 4 breast cancer and the tumors had spread everywhere, and she just did not share that with us. It's dramatic. So I look at that as, the psychologist in me would look at that as 2 major betrayals happening within months of each other. And then there's
loss.
Yeah, I mean, just huge loss. And then there's this little baby that I still have to make sure he's all right and take care of.
First of all, the little baby is a whole event.
Other thing. Yeah. So yeah, and his, you know, his birth, we had to even do an emergency C-section. So there was also stuff there. So it was a lot. It was a lot. And so therapy could only take me so far. And at some point I was asking around because I needed a rage room. I don't know whether you've heard of rage rooms, but it's a room where it's like padded walls and stuff. And then they've filled the room with things for you to break and destroy. Rage rooms are excellent because then you just go in and you grab, whether it's a chainsaw, a baseball bat, and you beat TVs, you break crockery. It's fabulous. Because my anger was so palpable that I didn't want to talk it out. I needed to let it out in the way that's most natural. Fight, break something, destroy something. And I'm not going to do that in my house because I need to clean up, right?
I mean, like you said, captivity. We're in captivity. Animals can do what they want, but if we do what we want, we are called animals. Okay, so that's a lot of trauma. When I went for therapy, I have a moment I can pinpoint that for me was profound because someone told me, "You've changed," and it was a very mundane series of events. My brother had forgotten to invite me for his child's birthday. So he was nervous about finally inviting me on the day of the birthday. But I think his wife pushed him to do it. So he didn't know what my reaction would be. But I was calm. I just told him, oh, okay, I think I have some time. I can come with my son. So we went for the birthday. We were relaxed. And then when it was late, I opted to go. They offered that I do a sleepover, but I wanted to go because sometimes you just want to go back home. Previously, I had always had problems driving at night, but on this day, I was easy. So they asked, are you going to be okay? And I told them, yeah, I'll be fine. I've got Google Maps. I'll be fine. If I don't find my way, I'll find my way somehow. So they thought that that was a completely changed version of me. And they had been watching me and feeling like, who is this? Do you have a moment like that when you can pinpoint and say, during my journey of spinal energetics, there was a moment where you felt like you are a new version of yourself? Yeah,
I mean, I definitely felt towards the last few sessions, there was a tangible shift. And this is even now before my friends saw me again and they would then comment, is I started feeling this heat around here. So this is the heart energetic center. And I started feeling this, like it was an overwhelming heat. And to the point where I had to like hold a fan over it. And it was specifically there. And that happened for 2 days. After that, I started to feel just happy for no reason. And that for me was that moment, like, great, I'm back. The heaviness and the stuff that was weighing me down from all of the stuff that I've been before, it's lifted. And that lightness, so this just feeling happy, feeling light, I wasn't as anxious, I wasn't as prone to fearful thinking or to overthinking. All of that just flowed. And I've felt that since then.
Yeah.
And it felt great. It's felt like I can relax again in my own skin, like I can trust again in life, and in life unfolding for me. And then now, probably because of that, now, when I met my friends, because I just had my 40th birthday.
Woo! You look so good.
Thank you. I know people don't believe it. They're like, produce ID.
I was sure you're in your 30s.
Yeah. No, I just turned 40, and when I had my close friends and family over, they were like, yeah, we can see a huge shift in you. We can see you're much lighter. This is great. Because they'd seen me how heavy and just downtrodden I'd been, trying to figure all of the stuff out that I've just mentioned. And so it was nice to physically feel that shift, but it was also nice to feel it energetically and psychologically. Like, I'm lighter, I'm happier, things are working out. Yeah. This is great.
Would you say that your temperament changed?
Yeah, I would say, absolutely. Because moving from somebody who has more intrusive, fearful thoughts to moving to somebody who is waking up in the morning with a smile on their face.
Your whole aura changes.
Yeah, that's a huge change.
Yeah.
And even in terms of how I now interacted with people, before I was a lot more guarded and a lot more in my masculine. Now I'm able to settle back into my feminine. I don't need to protect and defend and fight, as much as I was before.
Yeah.
So that for me has been a nice big change, which is nice. And it feels nice to be in my feminine.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It is amazing. You are a psychic and a medium. What is that? And as I was listening to a different conversation that you had, you said that there was a time you didn't know that you're a medium. So it means that it's something that is already in you?
So, okay, we are all, and I mean every single person on this planet, we're all born with spiritual gifts. Depending on your upbringing, depending on the society, the parents, the people around you, those gifts can either be stifled or they can be encouraged. So luckily for me, my mom was actually pretty radical in things that she practiced and things that she believed. And she, I come from a family that has, like my mom used to get prophetic dreams. She would be shown things happening a few days before they happen.
Wow.
And so, and my sister is able to see spirit since she was little, right? And I myself have memories of being able to see my guardian angels when I was a little girl and go on trips with them and stuff, which as you grow up, you think, I was just making that up. But now when I've reconnected with spirit and I'm now very firmly rooted in being able to receive messages and receive guidance, I realize, actually, I wasn't making that up. That's an accurate memory. And so I've always known that I've been psychic. In fact, my best friend when we were in high school gifted me my first deck of tarot cards. And from there, we just used to jokingly read them for each other. And over the years, I would start to do this more and more for my life. And things, whatever the messages the cards would have, I would see those things coming true. And it was for me, it was for my friends, to a point where I started to do this really regularly for myself. And I look at the cards as a tool. You don't actually need them, but they're helpful for me. Everyone has their way of connecting with spirit. And I actually look at the cards as a way to hear what God is telling me, right? So I've had a lot of these very heated debates with Christians. Yeah. And a lot of Christians would say, this is demonic, this is this. And I like to challenge that by just asking what their definition of God is. Because my definition of God is love. And when I'm talking to somebody and they believe that God is fear, you must fear God, those are two different worlds completely. Because how can you fear love? Just common sense. It doesn't make sense. So if God is the source of love, then things that are mystical or spiritual should be then looked at from a very curious and open perspective in line with that energy of love. But what's happening is a lot of people are looking at these gifts and these tools and these things from a viewpoint of fear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because then what's the fear in seeing in a card saying this is happening? Where's the fear? You can take it if it resonates, but if it doesn't resonate, you just ignore it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I am Christian, but I always feel like we can learn from each other.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to take everything
Yeah.
I believe in, and I don't have to take everything, but we can definitely learn from each other.
And you don't have to take something that goes against your beliefs personally and you're trying to persecute, because then you have to ask yourself, why is this triggering you so much?
Yeah.
Because then that means you have the issue.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, if somebody comes and tells you you look like an alien with a big head and large ears,
Yeah.
you know, if you don't, you know, if you realize that that person is saying something that to you is complete nonsense, would you get offended by that? No, you'd laugh it off because that is absurd, right?
Yeah.
And you move on. But if you then get offended and you're like fighting back, there's something in you that resonates with that, but you're afraid of hearing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I usually like to challenge people with just seeing where they're coming from. If they're coming from an attitude of fear, there's something that might need to be looked into and healed, right? So for me, being able to connect with spirit, it just started with my gift of sensitivity. I've always been sensitive.
Yeah.
In fact, that was one of my mother's major criticisms. You're too sensitive. You need to grow thicker skin.
Oh.
And I heard this over and over when I was growing up.
Me too, I think.
Yeah. But it's not something you grow out of. It's actually a gift. 20% of mammal species have hypersensitivity. In fact, there's a term now called HSP, high sensory perception. And it's an evolutionary gift. It's an evolutionary gift to mammals, because even antelopes and you know, dogs, cats, you'll find a percentage of them, that 20%. Scientists have quantified this, and the reason that they have this ability to be able to see things further, hear things better, sense things with more accuracy, is because they serve as a warning system to the rest of the population. It's a gift. And so for us as people, for those of us, you know, myself included, who have that high sensory perception, we're not in a world that's very friendly to that.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, people like my mom, she was just trying to help me fit in, right? But it was quite damaging because it was criticizing the fabric that is me.
Yeah.
And what I found now later on when I started healing, so this is where therapy did help me heal from that, and start to embrace that actually I'm sensitive. It's who I am. And actually it's not a curse, it's a gift, it's a superpower.
Yeah.
Because I can walk in, we can sit here, and I can pick up things about you that you will have your jaw on the floor like, how did you know this? You don't even know me. I can pick up subtle things. I can pick up mood changes in a room. I can pick up somebody having a very dangerous energy. I can pick up on threats and things like this much quicker than others.
Yeah.
You know, so that sensitivity is what for me has helped me be able to be able to speak to spirit, listen to spirit, right? And so it's now from that then that plus say the cards or whatever tools that I was using, then started to bring a lot of very interesting results, you know, in the readings that I was doing.
Tell me one, your favorite.
Do I have a
most
favorite?
Interesting? I have one that I heard from one of your
from one of that. I mean, there's you know, so for example, okay, so this is one that I haven't thought about in a long time. There's a lady I met in Zanzibar, and in her reading, I saw a lighthouse. She was dating her partner at the time, but they weren't physically in Zanzibar together. And when I did the reading for her, I was, and this is before I was doing this professionally. It was just like for a bit of fun, right?
Oh.
And so I saw a lighthouse in her reading, and I'm like, okay, there's something very important. There's a very important question that's going to be asked of you from in this lighthouse, and it has to do with your partner and your relationship. Yeah, so I saw many things, but that particular one.
Yeah.
And you know, once I see things and I give the message, that's it. You know, you go and do whatever you want with that.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, when she's gone back home, and she calls me ecstatic because 2 weeks later, her boyfriend took her to a lighthouse and proposed.
Oh,
isn't that sweet?
That's so good.
I'm like, oh my God, I saw a proposal and I didn't even realize.
That's so good.
Right? So there'll be things like that.
Yeah.
There have been things like that have come through in readings, and
Right.
they've now led me now down the field of people keep coming to me for me to help them with guidance, because that's all that really is. It's guidance.
Yeah.
And so who am I to say no?
Here's the thing I've always wondered, and I've seen it across board, because even among Christians, there are people who are prophetic.
And Jesus himself was a psychic and a mystic. People forget this.
Yeah, I agree with you. He would walk on water.
He turned water into wine. What is that?
Okay,
Just
we are
saying.
in agreement in that. So what I wonder, sometimes even with a little sadness, is how can you see the future, but you cannot avoid a betrayal, like especially a romantic betrayal. I feel like that's the one thing I should have seen and avoided.
The thing is, I did see it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So as much as I am a psychic, I'm also a human being with flaws, right? And so I could sense something was going on for months. I could feel it, and there was no shaking that feeling. And anytime I go to the cards, I'm being told the same thing, but I had no proof, and I hadn't learned how to, because I was listening to myself, I hadn't learned how to draw boundaries and protect myself. That was for me the lesson that needed to be learned, right? Because I was listening to myself. I'm like, I can feel this, and I would bring this up to him.
Let me just backtrack you a little, even to the point of like your seeing abilities could tell you, don't date this person, they're gonna hurt you.
So no, because relationships, so there's a difference between companionship and relationship. They have different objectives, different goals. Companionship is just somebody who, you can share your life with. It could be a friend, it could be a sibling, it could be a romantic partner.
Yeah.
But it's to be able to kind of, grow together, but in a very pleasant way, in a non-tumultuous way.
Yeah.
A romantic relationship is supposed to challenge, right? So it has that companionship element, but it's also supposed to challenge. So your shadow sides should come up in order to be seen and in order to be healed. And so there's a divine spiritual mission with the people that you end up dating, because you're there to teach things about yourselves to each other.
That's profound.
That's so Spirit couldn't have been like, no, because I needed to learn that I didn't know how to protect myself. And how am I going to know that? How am I going to know that?
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that it had to be so painful, but the blessing is that is a lesson I have learned. I am not unlearning that lesson.
I hear you, yeah.
Right? And so now I can be a better mother to my son, because now I really know how to protect. I had to learn about boundaries from that relationship, rather than just being accommodating all the time, My inner self and spirit have been telling me something's not right, and I've been hearing it, and then I go and speak to the person who's doing the not right, and then I believe his words over my own, right? I do not draw boundaries that then will protect me. And so that for me was, it was a very painful lesson, but it was a lesson all the same that I have learned.
That makes you better.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's made me a better person, but most of all, it's made me a better mom.
Wow.
Yeah, it's made me a better mom, because I'm like, protect.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and this is how. And now, I can continue life knowing how to draw very healthy boundaries, and teach that to my son.
Yes.
So that he doesn't go through the same mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. There's something else I had you talk about, which I found very interesting. You talked about having sore throat when you were younger.
Yeah.
Take us through that, the finding, the realization.
So what I was talking about on the previous show when I was mentioning that is, and it's linked to what I started to say, whenever we go through something, it could be something psychological, what happens is if we don't actually express that emotion, if that emotion is suppressed and our truth in experiencing that is suppressed, it then stays in the body on a physical cellular level. Yeah, so it goes to the cells, we have this connective tissue called the fascia that wraps around the muscles and the ligaments and all of this. And what happens is, over a period of time, if you keep suppressing, it'll keep being stored physically, right? Remember, like we were talking about the trauma.
Yeah.
And so whatever the wounding is, if the wounding is, for me, as I was growing up, I was growing up in a very unsafe environment. It was a very violent household. It was a very hostile, not just household, but even in school, we were beaten every day. And I was always that weird chick, right? That weird girl who would sit on the stairs in a really weird way and read the dictionary. So there was nothing about me that was typical from the start. And so because of this, I ended up being made fun of a lot, obviously, right? Because that's just unfortunately how we roll as humans. And this led me to, in order to survive in these environments, I learned to keep quiet and to make myself really, really small. And so what that did was I suppressed my voice, right? I was not safe speaking my truth. So we're in the same household. I've got a younger sister. We're just a year and a half in difference, so we're pretty close in age, but also we're pretty close. And in the same household, my sister hardly ever got things like sore throats. She would get maybe a cold or a flu. I would never get colds or flus, but I would get sore throats a lot. And it's only once I started embracing my path as a healer that I started getting these truths shown to me, this information shown to me. And one of the big breakthroughs was that whatever it is that you are suppressing emotionally will show up physically as an ailment, as a disease. You just look at that word and
disease.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because you are not at ease within your body. There's something in your body that you are not at ease with. And so for me, not being able to speak my truth, where is the home of that? It's here.
It's the voice.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I have so much.
and sorry, before you ask, and as soon as that eureka moment hit, I'm like, aha, so this is why this has been chronic to me, because doctors can't tell me what it is. Why do I keep having strep? We've gone through all the tests. I come out clear in everything. But why do I keep being susceptible to this thing? And my sister in the same household isn't. So that started to help me know myself more. And now in doing that, I had to now intentionally do work on healing that wound of I'm not safe speaking my truth. To the point where I'm here on a show today speaking about all these weird things and being completely confident in them, so right? Because I have healed that wounding. And I hardly ever get sore throats.
My question was, that's profound. My next question was, in your study, are specific aches and pains or specific conditions in different parts of the body related to something specific?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like the head, headaches.
Yeah, so I would lead people to 2 books. So one is The Body Keeps Score, which a lot of people have heard about. Read that. And then there's another one that there's a lady called Louise Hay, who was the first person to really have groundbreaking work when she was working with people with HIV in the 80s, right? And through that work, that work that she did with them just kind of put her on the scene of, okay, somebody's actually making a difference to marginalized people's lives. And she went on to write quite a few books. One of the books is You Can Heal Your Life, or You Can Heal Your Body. At the back of those books, there's a little glossary that will show you foot pain or headache or migraine or this and this, and it'll show you the emotional or psychological cause of that. That book has been revolutionary for me. There's more than that. I mean, like these other books, I think like Human Anatomy, I don't remember by who, but there's now bigger books that we use in the healing field to help people identify the pathology that a particular holding pattern of thought has brought this ease within their bodies. And it's so encouraging for me that, because then it puts the power of healing back in our hands. And I always say, as a healer, I'm not the one doing the healing for somebody. I'm just going into the space with your permission and setting an intention of ultimate healing and raising the vibration to that. So now you get to choose whether you agree to matching that vibration or not. But you're the one actually doing the healing, right? And so these books, I think they're phenomenal because they will help us understand, why do I keep having chronic back pain? Why do I keep having chronic migraines? Why do I keep having this? And if you look at whatever you're going through in your life, you'll notice there's particular triggers. If you just keep a diary, if you keep a journal of this, you'll find these particular triggers that every time this and this happens, this happens. So for example, I used to get really, really debilitatingly painful periods to the point where I was bedridden for 3 days. When I worked in advertising, I actually had to go with doctor's notes to allow me to be home for at least 3 out of 5 days a month because I was not able to move. I wasn't. And the pain was so bad that I would be throwing up. Like it was brutal. And as soon as I flew to Senegal and started to live in Senegal, can you believe, from month 1, painful periods, thing of the past. I'm still getting my period, but there's no debilitating pain that's stealing 3 days of my life.
Wow.
And so I had to find out, like, is it because I'm by the ocean? Is it because I'm eating more fish? Like, you try to think about the physical shifts. But no, it was actually because I was in such a loving, feminine, relaxed environment. Because Nairobi is very masculine. Nairobi is very hostile. Nairobi is very charged. It's a very masculine city. So women in Nairobi have to be in their masculine to survive.
We have to man up.
Yeah. But in Dakar, I could not walk out of a supermarket with heavy shopping bags. I could not walk from the supermarket to my house, which is just 5 minutes away, without men demanding I stop and allow them to carry the bags for me. Like real men. When I talk about masculine behavior, I miss that place.
I want to know why the men in this room are all laughing. The men in this room are like,
you see, because it's very different. So there, because men there are very much in their masculine, it forces the women to then be in their receptive feminine. And so me, who was struggling with these bags, is making them look bad. They would tell me, you're making us look bad. Oh. Please, allow us to be men, okay? I'm like, okay.
Nairobi men.
Learn, guys.
Are you listening?
And they wouldn't ask me for my number. They wouldn't ask for money.
I know.
They were producing, and I can explain this scientifically, because I love looking at the hormones, for men to feel less stressed, they need to up their testosterone. And in order to up their testosterone, men need to do things that release dopamine. Dopamine is the reward chemical or hormone we produce when we solve problems, right? So this is why you find, like, men are stressed, they need to go solve a problem. They need to go to the garage and fix a car. They need to go. Oh. It's because that is producing dopamine, which is upping their testosterone, which is lowering their stress levels. Scientific fact. Right? So those men, were actually in me yielding and allowing them to help me. They were solving my problem. They were releasing testosterone, which was releasing their stress. And me, because women, we have the same hormones but in different quantities. So for us, we need to produce more estrogen to feel less stressed. And the only way to produce more estrogen is to produce oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone or the love hormone. And so strange men asking me, please let me carry your bag. Don't you feel loved and connected? Automatically, oxytocin is produced. Automatically, my estrogen is higher and my stress is lower.
Yeah.
And so I was so happy in that city, so happy. And so there's a symbiotic dance, that that both the genders of male and female provide for each other. That if we just kind of go back into healthy traditional role settings, and I say healthy because a lot of times people try to use traditional roles as justification to suppress the other. No, I'm talking about the healthy bit, right? And so, because it's literally lowering our stress. It's lowering our stress, you know? So here, so being there in that city where the society expectation for me as a woman was to be an actual lady. Oh, I blossomed.
Took away the pain.
It took away the pain. I didn't have to effort, fight. I wasn't struggling. I wasn't trying to solve multiple problems. I had to now learn how to be a woman, right? So I call it my feminine university or my woman university. I was there for 4 years.
That is profound.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
I once interviewed someone who came from Sudan as a boy. He was coming here for asylum. And when he came, he had a skin condition. His skin would break out and pop and even smell. Yeah. And then he said when he came to Nairobi, it just cleared. Yeah. And that was after years of trying to clear it in Sudan. So as you speak, I'm also thinking that environment can be a healing factor as we search for wellness.
Absolutely. In fact, there's a saying that goes, environment is stronger than will. Because as much as you have willpower, the environment is so much larger and has so much more force over you that at some point it's going to affect you.
Yes.
Right? So the environment is extremely important to your well-being. So we have to be intentional in where we want to raise our kids, what kind of people we want around us, because our friends, our family are our first environment.
Yes.
You know, and then the government is your second. But we will not get into that today.
Let's not touch that. Yeah. Let's not touch that. I want to go into your corporate work. You're very passionate about corporate wellness.
Yeah. Just so this work that I've been doing, from the yoga to the breath work to the therapy and psychology, all of these tools have actually allowed me to specify in being able to help people in high stress environments. I was one of those people, right? And
corporate is rough.
I mean, advertising specifically in corporate is one of the most hostile environments. Journalism and advertising, very toxic places in terms of industries, and especially in this country. And I managed to not just survive, but thrive there for 11 years.
Wow.
Right? And the reason I did that, the reason I was able to do that is because I was doing all of these other wellness activities for myself, to allow myself to be stable and to be grounded. Yeah. And so one of the vows that I made to myself when I left advertising, because I resigned in the peak of my career. I was one of the senior creatives in Ogilvy, and the only woman in that. And people thought it was stupid, right? But I made a resolve to go back into those environments and help people in those environments be able to manage their stress levels so that they don't fall prey to the toxicity that sometimes is around them, right? So that they're able to be healthy, sound body and mind, in order to even make clear decisions of if they want to continue to stay in this line of work, how can they self-parent, how can they take care of themselves better? Yeah. And so that's the work that I ended up now being drawn to do with corporates. And this was not even like I sat down and this was my strategy. No, I was working one-on-one with people, and from the one-on-ones, these people work in these offices, right? And so they started to speak my name within the organizations, and then they literally would start I would find an email. Hey, we've heard about you. Can you come facilitate stress management session for our team? Can you come and facilitate a wellness retreat for our staff? Can you come and be our in-house therapist, right? Can you come and do all of these things? And so I started to I've worked with a whole bunch of organizations, being able to now help them specifically in the key area of stress management. And it's not just from a psychology perspective, because remember, we have to look at the different layers. Yeah. So when I go into these spaces and hold sessions, whether it's workshops or retreats, I will teach them how to do simple, accessible things like, do you know you can actually control, if you're an overthinker and you're anxious, do you know you can actually stop that just using your breath? And I will teach them particular breathing techniques that will then go to rewire the brain to tell the nervous system it's okay, you're safe. Yeah. And that calms everything down. So I'll teach breath work, I'll teach some yoga postures and some somatic moves, and then I'll teach them about their own body. Like, this is what's happening when you're allowing yourself to be in this stress state. And then we'll go through some strategy planning for wellness activities, right? And I've done amazing work with amazing people. I've worked with a lot of NGOs and activists. A lot of activists tend to come and find me. So from Frida Fund to Nala Feminist Council. I recently worked with the British Embassy here. I've worked with the judiciary, with the Chief Justice herself. I've worked with a big range of these offices, both in the corporate and the non-corporate field. So these are people in very high stress environments. And so I go in and, including, say, the Ford Foundation, I go in and I'll teach the executives in very senior leadership how to manage their own stress, so that they can then be more present and holistic. And also, when you're in that state, you're not surviving, you're thriving. You're able to think clearer, you're able to impact the people around you, you're able to even implement better programs. Yeah. And so that's the corporate work that I do.
I have enjoyed this conversation. I wish it could go on for another hour, and maybe we will extend it some other time in the future. Thank you for making time. You've spoken to me about just being self-aware and knowing that you are more than just one facet of wellness. It's not just about medicine tablets. It's not just about therapy, but it's a whole lot of things. Thank you for making time for us. Where can people find you?
So I've got a website, yogininyamwathi.com. So you can find me on my website. You can find me on Instagram as well. You can find me, so mainly it's my website, Instagram, Facebook, and you can communicate to me through those channels or through my WhatsApp. So you'll find my WhatsApp linked in both my website as well as my Instagram.
Yeah. Thank you. And before we go, these are the tarot cards you were talking about.
Yeah, so these are not specifically tarot. These are oracle cards. So there's tarot cards that really talk about the human experience, and then there's oracle cards that are really more just kind of general guidance. But all of them basically are tools to be able to give messages about the situations you're going through.
I mean, I'm looking at one and I'm like, I have no idea what this could be. So what happens when you're able to see? What do you see something different from what is on the card?
So when I'm giving a reading, because my main gift is a sensitivity, so I will feel, actually, I will have this, it's called clairsentience, where you get truths and knowledge from instincts, from feelings. And then I'm also clairvoyant, which means I can see things, right? And so when I'm giving a reading with the cards, I'll basically, I'll shuffle, I'll ask you to pick, and you will go in asking a particular question. And when we pick the cards will have messages on them, but I actually, and most cards have guidebooks. Because I've been doing this for so long, I don't use that. I just use my intuition. And visually, there'll be, so for example, right now, the card that you've picked, it talks about a man holding a coin. So for me, that talks about that one of your main priorities currently is you're looking to stabilize your finances. You're looking to just really ground your financial present and future for you and your family. And there's a lot of wisdom that you would want. There's a lot of wisdom you're looking for in that. And where I get the word wisdom from is because if I look at the card here, there's a streak of some gray hair. So I'm a very visual reader. So there'll be things here.
Oh, there is.
So there'll be specific details that I'm drawn to that I know if I'm attracted to looking at this, that's the message for you. And so I'll just start speaking.
Okay.
My logical brain is switched off because a lot of the things that I'm saying, they don't make sense to me.
Okay.
But you on the receiving end, like what I've just said, is that something that's true?
Yes.
As in terms of like what your top 3 priorities right now, finances is one of the major ones.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know you, you don't know me.
Yeah.
But I'm able to pick that out from the card that's come through.
Yeah.
And then it also says something about I don't know whether you're seeking counsel from your grandparents if they're still alive. But there's a grandparent that's going to help you with knowing how to, with some very wise advice as to how you can invest.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So so I use a variety of tools.
Yeah.
If we had time, we would go a little bit deeper into that because then we could find out if are your grandparents alive or are they passed? Your grandfather is alive?
My grandmom.
Your grandmother is alive. Because I'm getting grandfather. So it might be your grandfather is wanting to give you some messages, but because he's passed, he's now, so this is now where the mediumship comes in. He's now just kind of poking at me saying, yeah, she needs to hear certain messages.
Stop.
Yeah, no, it's never, it'll only be, the messages only come through when you're ready and you want.
Yeah.
So I use a variety of tools. So the tarot cards are some of those tools for those messages. There's also the pendulum, which I have one here, but I also wear one.
They're so pretty.
They're nice, huh? They're really, yeah, absolutely. Okay. So for example, the cards are really great for getting a story, right? Like what I've just done.
Yeah.
But then the pendulum is great at getting yes, no, or maybe answers. So very specific.
Oh.
There's no waffling with that.
Oh.
And so, yeah, in fact, you can feel free to hold it. And I've done this for skeptics at parties and all of this, and because people don't believe in these things, they always question. So I like to actually brace my.
Do you want me to try that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So brace your elbow on the So this is a surface that's not moving, right? And what you're going to do is you're going to ask the pendulum to show you the direction for yes. So just
Show me the direction for yes.
Yeah. And it'll start to spin or move in a particular direction. And you'll notice,
I think I'm even trembling. So is it really going to work?
So as a first timer, most likely not, because you still have to learn how to trust. So you're not getting in your own way, but you can just observe mine. I'm not moving my hand, but it is spinning. Okay.
Oh.
And if I ask it to spin even wider, it'll spin wider. And I'm not moving my hand, right? Please give me a strong yes. Okay, thank you. So then I asked the pendulum to show me the direction for no. Please show me your no. And for me, it's moving counterclockwise. And it moved pretty quickly. Okay, and then because we're not supposed to know everything, Spirit sometimes wants, it's not yet your time to know, so it's always good to ask maybe. So please show me maybe.
Wow.
Okay, so we could, so this is something, thank you. So this is a nice tool that I like to use if we want to get yes, no answers in a particular reading from your higher self, from your spirit guides.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as you saw my hand wasn't moving.
Yeah.
But the thing was just moving. And if you're holding it, I teach workshops on how to do this for yourself.
Yeah.
You'll actually start to feel like it's almost like there's some sort of magnet that's pulling.
Yeah.
Because it'll make this very intentional circle. Yeah.
Oh.
So, and you can do, we were talking earlier about, the visual of the crystal ball. So that's a technique called scrying. So scrying is really anything that you can look into that, you will start to get visuals or sounds or images that will then relay a message. So in the movies, they show this crystal bowl. I actually teach people how to do the scrying with a bowl full of water. Right? Or a simple way to look at it is, as kids, you often go outside and you're laying on the grass and you're seeing shapes in the clouds. That is scrying. You know, so if you're intentional with that and you want to ask spirit for messages, you just do that and look at the clouds and you'll see your answers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very, very intriguing.
Very.
All right. Thank you so much for that.
Thank
It's been
you.
a very interesting show, and thank you all for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I know Africans, so many of us are Christians, so keep your comments respectful.
Just base them in love.
In love.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the one thing we
Just base
agree
them in
on.
love.
I really do agree with you on love, kindness, gentleness. We can agree on that. Thank you for watching. Bye.